Come, let's learn the mechanism of hormone action in today's class. To understand the mechanism of hormone action, we should at least know the chemical nature of a hormone. Basically, hormones are of two types, water soluble and fat soluble. All the steroid hormones T3 and T4 come under this category. The rest of all hormones are water soluble. Very easy to remember, isn't it? Now, this is cell 1 and this is cell 2. And you know, we are all animals and our cell is bound by the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. And we all know, if I call this to be a piece of plasma membrane, this is stuffed with phospholipid bilayer. You know, Sanger and Nicholson's fluid mosaic model best describes the nature of the plasma membrane. So this is a glycerol and the fatty acids, glycerol and the fatty acid, again glycerol, fatty acid, glycerol and fatty acid. They go on like this. So this is a plasma membrane. If I would call this hormone to be water soluble, can this travel via the plasma membrane? It cannot, because it's water soluble and the plasma membrane is basically phospholipid bilayer. While if the hormone is a fat soluble hormone, yes, it can easily travel through the plasma membrane and then enter the cell. Let's go into detail. Now, since this is H for hormone, okay, since this is water soluble hormone, and since it cannot enter into the cell, it acts via a mediator. That mediator is second messenger, in which case the hormone itself is called the primary messenger. The hormone then sits on the membrane-bound receptor, and then this complex will generate a second messenger. What happens later we will study in some time. Let's come to this. If the hormone is fat soluble, it enters the cell, it also enters the nucleus. In the nucleus, it communicates or it interacts with the receptor. So this receptor which you see here is called intracellular receptor because it is in the nucleus. You call it as intranuclear receptor. NCERT says majority of the intracellular receptors are intranuclear. Now this hormone receptor complex then interacts with a particular gene sequence on this genome, and then this genome will now make mRNA. mRNA comes out into the cytoplasm and then it makes protein. All of us know that the formation of mRNA is transcription while the formation of protein is translation. Now, what's common to these both is the hormone receptor complex once forms stimulates biochemical changes in the cell, which after so many reactions bring about physiological response. Now here, NCERT says these are cumulative, meaning they're additive, which bring a wide spectrum response, the physiological response. Now once the secondary messenger is produced, it will now bring about the same changes, like biochemical change followed by physiological change. Now here, where is the biochemical change, children? Yes, the synthesis of mRNA, synthesis of protein is the biochemical change, and once protein is made, it will bring about physiological change or physiological response. Now if I call this hormone to be FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, of course if it is stimulating the follicle, which follicle is it? I'm talking about the ovary, we all know that. So this cell, I would call it as ovarian cell. Now once the FSH acts on the cell, it will generate second messengers and they will bring about changes in the ovarian cell. We have follicular growth. Let's talk about the fat soluble hormones. So let's say this hormone is estrogen. OE or E, they mean the same. So estrogen enters the cell, and this cell is the cell of uterus. So now what physiological changes you find after estrogen acts in the cell? If it's a uterine cell, you would see tissue differentiation, and let's say the uterine cells are endometrial cells. The endometrial cells thicken. Estrogen stimulates mitotic divisions in the uterine cells of the endometrium, right? And we have to memorize 3 examples of second messengers in the NCERT. One is cyclic AMP, the other is calcium ion, and the third is inositol triphosphate.